Friends, enemies, and those of you who have yet to decide which one you are, I greet you. Hello. The sun has gone down, and the stars have gone up. It is now night in my studio. It is once again time for me to continue my story. The last time I told you about Edward, a co-worker from back in my youth, who, after over a decade of silence, called me out of the blue for a cup of coffee at a cafe in a shopping mall. Curiously, I took the invitation, and he told me an interesting story that involved a villa in England that had one time been a castle. This villa was located by a macabre cliff where the locals rumored that people would go there for suicide. Not bothered by the odd history or strange sounds, for he believed the strange sounds were attributed to the age of the villa. He enjoyed staying there until a night of the storm where he saw a disfigured woman screaming about murder. The next day, when the storm had ended, he found a recently opened entrance that led him down a dark hallway. Using a candle and a flashlight, he found a few corpses, a library of mold and mildew, and other such rooms. One particular room he found distasteful was a room where the bodies from the suicide jumps seemed to have been washed upon, and the room smelled of death. While he was in that room, he noticed eyes looking at him. A woman who he is claiming to call Galatea was looking at him behind a wooden mask and a dirty sweater. Describing Galatea set him in a panic. I calmed him down. I got a sweet from the cafe and asked him to continue. I find sweets are better to ease people into stressful stories. As he started, he looked around nervously. I never knew that he was so nervous until now. Edward, can you please continue your story? You were looking at this creature. She was looking at you. And then what did you do? It wasn't so much me. I was still in a bit of a shock. And honestly, I literally did need to change pants now, okay? And which is odd because she picked up on that really quickly, and in a very dead-like, serious voice, she just blurts out, "You're not the first man to soil their pantaloons at the sight of me, nor will you be the last." Pantaloons? Ooh. How long has she been gone? Actually, hold on, okay, so that got me out, and yeah, that was an interesting way to get me. There was a good icebreaker. And then she continued in that same dead-like voice. "I know of you. I have heard of you. I have watched you above. I have some questions I want to ask you. Be quick. Give me the answers. But beware. I am not of the right mind. I have gone mad from time to time. I am now coherent, but I will go mad. It's only a question of time. Time. And that was the creepiest thing I had seen in my life. I backed up a little bit, but it looked like she took a moment for her to just calm down. But while she was doing that, she was just moving like some sort of weird puppet, but just maddening. But okay, so when she calmed down, I took a breath and I tried to say a few things. Just just to lighten the load, kind of, in the conversation wise. Just I basically asked her like how many people were down here. I was looking for someone who might have killed John and uh, someone who was very disfigured. Was she that person that I saw during the storm? And then she said, clearly, yes. As you were entering these tunnels, did you not see a few skeletons? And did you not investigate the skeletons? If you did, you would have noticed I have a skeleton by the entrance that you walked through, and in a pocket it has a photograph of what the skeleton looked like in real life. That was the John I was mentioning. I am sorry. I do go mad from time to time. Time. I do go mad. And the storm last night put me in a tizzy, put me in a spell. And I I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get you down here. In fact, I think you should go back up. Close the door and lock it. I am alone here. But I do have some questions I need to know. And if you can endure my madness for just a little bit, I'd be a very appreciated person. Person. Honestly, when she was doing these weird voices, it freaked me out. But realistically, she was rather kind of small, and I probably could have defended myself against her. She was really going to attack me like a psycho or whatever. But at the same time, I was curious. So I said, okay, you have questions. Fine. Let me hear that. As long as you don't kill me, you stay over on your end, I'll stay over my end. Are you okay with that idea? And then she replied, yes. Do not touch me, and I will not touch you. Do not touch me, and I will not touch you. My question is, on the picture that you found in John's pocket, it was written down 1941. At that time, there was a war going on, and I cannot leave this area. I can go into secret tunnels in the remains of the castle above, but I cannot see time. I cannot see the progress of days to night, years. And I would like to know, is it still 1941? Are we still at war? I haven't heard the bombings in quite a long time. But sometimes I become very still, almost death-like still. And I wake and I have no idea how much time had passed. Is it still 1941? That question that she asked it blew my mind. She had been in here for over like 70 so years. How could she still be alive? What was she eating? Was she eating like the corpses of the suicide victims? I mean, like, how? Does that explain the creepy yellow eyes glowing out from the darkness? Was it some sort of nuclear fallout or some kind of radiation that no one knows about that was tested on England soil? I try to explain to her that, the present day, the year, etc., etc., you know, and she was kind of shocked. But then she continues asking shocking questions. And she just asks, like, about medical information. I'm not a doctor. She wanted to know if there was any progress in bringing the dead back to life. And I was trying to mean like what? Like, flatlining for a few seconds and coming back, but she said no, digging a corpse up and bringing that person back to life, or creating a new creature. And I was very confused when she started talking about that. But then she stopped and she said something like, John and Mary, the last people that I have seen alive and talked to alive, told me that my story reminded them of a book by a young lady named Mary Shelley, a story they called Frankenstein. Mary was so kind and she gave me the book Frankenstein to read, and it was deeply unsettling to discover a story very similar to my own story, but unlike the creature in Frankenstein who was able to escape the laboratory, I could not escape, could not escape, could not escape, could not escape. At this point, I could see that she was about to go on and have another tizzy, fizzy, whatever. So I said, okay, tell me more about your story. Who created you? Do you know who created you? When you were created, if any time? I mean, you just said you don't know when time passes now, but was it 1941 or what? Um, so she told me her story, and by gosh, that is one story that is sick. You know how they say that men only want one thing, and it's, well, sick? Apparently, this one guy created a female Frankensteinish monster, but not for science, but, well, for his own carnal pleasures, if that makes sense. I don't want to go into detail, but this was quite a long time ago. Apparently, she had kept his notes in actually in pretty good condition, and it looked like it was dated to be like the 1600s. I mean, of all the things in that place, it was rotten, moldy, and etc. These science pages of how she was created was kept in very good condition. Mainly because for her, that was how she was able to keep alive. Actually, sometimes she would have to replace body parts. And since there were people who were literally just jumping off this cliff and the bodies of these people were coming to her area, she would learn how to, well, take what she needed from these corpses. That's why her body looked so disfigured and so disgusting. But at the same time, it seemed that she had killed the creator very early on. So early on that she really didn't catch his name. The weird thing is, because of this creator's weird psychological hold on her, she was afraid to leave the castle. She was a very big shut-in, and there were a few events she mentioned that every time she would leave the castle, she would find the villagers with pitchforks and torches and all that fun stuff. Maybe that was in her mind or maybe not, but listening to this woman, and sometimes she would be calm and collect and dead quiet. Then she starts doing these like creepy, echoey voices, like it just. I didn't know it was. I was bewildered. I wanted to know more what was behind the mask, and I tried to ask if she would take her mask off so I can see her face, and she was very hesitant about that. And that's understandable. I'm not gonna ask creepy woman in dark tunnel to show me a creepier face, but I was just curious. The sad part of all of this is that because she was created in a weird way, her brain probably wasn't all wired up how it should have been. And that was one of the questions she was asking about medically. Was there any advancements in brain medicine? I don't know. But it was a very odd meeting. It was very civil as long as I kept her from talking from time and her identity as a person. So after some time, I left. She allowed me to leave, and She asked if I could bolt the metal door again. It was destroyed in a thunderstorm. And I don't know. I said I'd look into it. I left, and I thought, happily ever after, creepy woman left to her own devices, and I would be, okay. I have a story to tell, and that's about it. Maybe a few nightmares. As I left, now you might have remembered when I entered this place, I found a long letter, and this long letter was from Mary, who had originally owned this villa, and it was too long when I first found it. I didn't want to read all of it, so when I finally got above ground, she Galatea didn't follow me at all. I got above ground, looked at this letter, and it surprised me. It was a warning. It talked about Galatea. Told the person, whoever found this letter, not to continue down the hallways. That this Galatea was basically immortal, but it was also a type of person that would always change their minds. She couldn't really keep to an idea. Yes, she wanted to stay in the tunnels, but she also wanted to explore. And there were times that she would become homicidal and a maniac as well. And I discovered that quite early on as I left the villa. I found, well, more and more of her just looking around the corners, and that's why I wanted to hopefully meet with you because, well, we used to look the same. And I was hoping that if we were in a place like this, she might be seeing us now and possibly. I was going to give you a jacket that I wore when I first met her and pretend it was a gift and hope that you would wear it and that she would mistake you for me. So she would kill me instead of kill you. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Yes, yes, but I don't think it'll work. I mean, you gained some pounds there. You should lay off all those sweets. She can obviously tell that we are not the same person anymore. Maybe this was 20 years ago, yes, but not now. So that's my story. I don't know what to do next. I, I, I don't think I can go to the authorities, and I don't know if she's really there. I'm losing my mind. I see those yellow eyes just gleaming out, and sometimes I see that wooden mask just in odd places that you don't expect to see, like going to a movie theater or a quiet cafe is almost impossible now. I have no idea what I can do. Do you have any ideas? Any advice? I can't be 100% sure, but I think that, well, there's a lot more disappearances around me these days of people who I barely know than my neighbors or convenience store clerks I see often. They disappear, and I think it's because that she's trying to get fresh body parts. As her body rots, she just needs to get newer parts, and I feel like I'm leading people to death, and I was hoping that if she thought she would finally kill me by killing you, no offense, that she would lay off me, and she would go back to England or whatever, and I could live a happy life doing what I was doing before, just carefree, traveling around, just being a free spirit. Do you have any possible ideas? I feel like I'm going crazy, maybe crazier than she is right now. I thought about this for a moment, and then I said to him that it might be a wise idea to surround himself with a community of doctors, while at the same time continue to travel, for maybe one of the two would pan out. He gave it a thought. He said okay, and then he walked away. And that, I thought, was the end of his story and his connection to me. But a few years later, he came up in a way that I did not expect. And that I'll save for the next time. Before I leave, I have a little house upkeep I want to do. I hope you do not find this annoying, but I, as a YouTuber, have always felt it was weird to say please click like, subscribe, share, any of those drawl buttons to click on. But someone had mentioned that there is an algorithm at stake now that would help YouTubers such as I am. And I also have a Patreon account, which I hope to have some pictures of this series on if you feel the need to join. Until next time, where I conclude this story, sweet dreams.